what's going on? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm showing you how you can make any celebration 10 times more special with this delicious eggless chocolate cake, which is made without any oven. We are going to make this on the stove top, and it has a delicious 5-minute chocolate fudge frosting which is going to blow your mind. So let's just get right into the recipe. I'm first going to show you the setup for the gas stove oven. Here I have a heavy bottomed saucepan or a pot, and into that I'm adding a cup of sea salt. Even table salt works brilliantly in this recipe for making this setup. I'm just going to spread it out with my fingers slightly, and then I have this metal ring which will act as a support for our cake tin. Now I'm going to cover this up with a lid as well, but before we actually, this is what the setup is, but we'll be taking the cake tin out because first we want to preheat our makeshift oven setup. So I'm just going to put this lid on and pop it on my stove on a low heat and continue heating this. So basically our gas stove oven that we have just made is going to preheat, and while that is happening, we will start working on our cake recipe. So here in a bowl I have some yogurt and milk which I am going to combine, and then I'm also going to add some baking soda and baking powder and give it a thorough whisk until all the ingredients are well combined. Now again, for this recipe too, I am following the same method that I have used to make my best eggless vanilla cupcakes, and following that recipe we also saw how to make a delicious Indian inspired tres leches cake and an upside down orange cake as well in the previous videos. So there are links all in the description box below for your reference. I'm going to give this a quick whisk and keep it away to let it activate further while we work on our dry ingredients. So here now in a bowl I have placed a sieve over it, and now I'm going to add my dry ingredients, which is basically all-purpose flour, some cocoa powder and some caster sugar. But before I add the caster sugar, as you can see, there isn't enough space in the sieve. So I'm first going to lightly sift the all-purpose flour and cocoa powder, then I'll start adding the caster sugar. Now I'll start sifting all of this until all the lumps are gone. Now as you can see, when you sift it, the cocoa powder and the caster sugar tend to get a few lumpy bits in them, so that's the reason why I pass them through a sieve, just so that everything is nice and uniform and fine and there are no lumps, and also it helps incorporate a slight amount of air as well as we are sifting from a height. Now once I have sifted all of my dry ingredients, I'm going to take my whisk and just combine them so that the sugar, flour and cocoa powder are mixed well together. Again, all the ingredients are down in the description box below and on my website. Now I will add some softened salted butter into this mix, and using my whisk again, I'm just going to cut that butter into the dry ingredients in a way that this dry ingredient mix starts to look a little like sand or breadcrumbs. You could also use the tips of your fingers if you don't want to use a whisk. Make sure that all the dry ingredients get coated into the butter, and that is what your dry ingredients mix should look like. It looks almost like sand or breadcrumbs, which is perfect. I'm going to show you this reaction that we have got from mixing the baking soda and baking powder into yogurt and milk. It's nice, fizzy and bubbly. It's perfect. Now I'm going to add this to my dry ingredients. Now before I start mixing, I'm also going to add a teaspoon of instant coffee powder. The coffee intensifies the chocolate flavor. You do not taste the coffee in the cake, but your cake certainly starts to taste a lot more chocolatey. So now using my spatula, I'm just going to gently fold the dry ingredients into the wet, making sure that I'm not knocking out any of that air that we generated from the fizzy mix of the yogurt and milk. Just keep folding it enough to the point where you do not see any more dry ingredients in this bowl. You can see now there's still a few lumpy bits in there, and we want this cake batter to be nice and smooth and uniform. So for 30 seconds I am going to take the whisk and just Whisk this cake batter rigorously until it starts to look something like this. It's nice, smooth and silky, and honestly you could just eat the batter by the spoonful, but we're not going to do that. We're going to bake this. Using my spatula, I'm finally going to scrape the sides, making sure the cake batter is well mixed together. You don't want to overwork the batter, just bring it together from the sides and the bottom, and that's it. Now I have two 6-inch cake tins which I have greased with some oil. You could also use some butter, and I've lined the bottoms with some parchment paper just to make sure that the cake releases very easily later on after it's baked. Now using my ice cream scoop, I'm going to evenly divide the cake batter into the cake tins. You could also use spoons. Now once I have added all of that cake batter in both the tins, using a butter knife, I am just going to spread this cake batter evenly in the cake tins to ensure that after it bakes, it doesn't bake lopsided. So you don't have to be exact, but just make sure that it's evenly spread out. And then I'm just going to tap it against the countertop. So in case there are any air bubbles, they will come to the surface, and I'll do the same with the one at the back as well. And now it's time to bake our cake. So these are the two saucepans that you can see that are preheating, and as soon as I lift the lid, the heat escapes, which is perfect. We know that this is nice and hot right now. So I'm going to very carefully place the cake tins inside and place it on the metal ring that I showed you earlier. And the heat here is on very low right now, and we are going to cook this, or bake this rather, for 45 minutes. And while that is happening, we are going to start making our 5-minute fudge frosting. So here I'm going to use some fresh cream. So it's very difficult to find heavy cream here in India, so fresh cream works like a charm. Now I'm going to add some salted butter and some sweetened condensed milk, and finally the main hero ingredient, which is some chopped dark chocolate, for ensuring that everything melts evenly and at the same time all the ingredients are at room temperature. Now the heat here is on medium only until all the ingredients start to melt. Once we notice that the chocolate has melted uniformly and that all the ingredients are more or less melted, I will turn the heat all the way down to low and cook this for 3 minutes. Set a timer on your phone and cook this for about 3 minutes, stirring all the time, because you do not want anything to burn, especially the chocolate, because that would not taste good at all. So keep stirring, and because it's the low heat, it's not going to burn if you constantly keep stirring. And also use a non-stick if you can, so nothing catches at the bottom. Now our fudge frosting is ready. It's been 3 minutes. I'm going to take it off the heat, and then I'm going to add some sea salt. It just intensifies the chocolate flavor and kind of adds a touch of sweetness. It balances very well, and chocolate and sea salt together is such a good flavor combination. So I'm just going to give it a quick stir, and then I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator for it to chill completely, because as it cools and as it chills, it's going to thicken up gorgeously. Now my cakes are ready. I'm going to put a toothpick in, and you can see it comes out clean. So that's the toothpick test which the cake has passed. So now I'm going to let it cool down in the tin for about half an hour to 45 minutes, and then invert it and let it cool down completely before you handle the cake. Now I am using a serrated knife to level the tops of the cake. So I'm going to trim the top off. Now as you can see, I'm not using a cake leveler for this one, because I want to show you that it's very easy to level the cakes off yourself with a serrated knife or with any knives that you have available. You'll do the same with the other cake as well. Look how thick this fudge frosting has gone. It's almost like ganache, but it's silky smooth and a lot more delicious. Now I'm going to invert the other cake which I have leveled off as well, but I will invert it in a way that the bottom of the cake forms the top of that cake, because as you can see, it has a nice smooth and flat top. Now I'm going to whatever frosting comes out from the sides, I'm just going to gently brush it along the sides of the cake, and the rest of that chocolate fudge frosting comes together on the top and the sides. So this is what I love about making this cake, is that you do not have to be a perfectionist, and if you are terrified of decorating cakes with buttercreams and having that perfect cake finish, which I absolutely am terrified of doing that, and that's the reason why using this is, or making this cake rather, is so simple, because you don't need to be perfect with anything. In fact, the more uneven the frosting is, the more rustic this cake looks. And you can see I'm using a normal butter knife, no fancy equipment, no offset spatula, and just with these simple ingredients, almost everything which can be easily found in your home itself, our delicious eggless chocolate cake is ready. We haven't used oven, we haven't used eggs, and still just look how fluffy and moist that cake is. I mean, I have never finished a cake so quickly in my life. It's so easy, it's so tasty, and just look how it cuts like butter, and it's soft, and that frosting is melt in your mouth. It's so stunning, and I really hope you make this for your next big celebration, for a birthday, anniversary, or just on a weekend if you're feeling indulgent. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you again next time. Until then, goodbye and happy baking.